President Trump has threatened to investigate Twitter over a practice known as shadow banning. The president is concerned that the social media company is limiting the visibility of prominent conservatives in its search results. Well, joining us with more is Dan Gainor. He's Vice President of Business and Culture at the Media Research Center. So, Dan, I'm assuming this didn't surprise you at all. So what do you make of Twitter's shadow banning of conservatives?
Well, a couple key points. One, we did a major research project earlier this year looking at the top social media companies, and we found at the time that Twitter was the worst. So this doesn't especially surprise me. Project Veritas had done some behind-the-scenes gotcha videos of Twitter engineers and got them sort of admitting to shadow banning. So that this comes up months later that we now see that this is going on is not too surprising. But watching Twitter backwater and say this is part of their honest, or healthy conversation initiative, pardon me, is even more disturbing. It's Orwellian. A healthy conversation. You don't get to converse. Isn't that healthy?
Well, after the president's tweet calling for an investigation, and also I know that Brent Bozell had a press conference and made some statements about it, suddenly you could find Jordan and Meadows and the others on Twitter in a search. And so how long do you think that'll last, Dan?
Oh, I think it will last until we either get this cleared up and get full transparency of what Twitter is really doing, or until somebody behind the scenes figures out something else to do. I remember this is a story that wasn't broken by conservative media. It was actually broken by Vice media, much to their credit. And so when even liberal outlets are figuring out the conservatives are being mistreated on social media, I think that's when everybody needs to stand up and pay attention. This is an election year. These are people who are running for election that when you go to search for them, they don't even exist on the Twitter platform until under the drop down. That's a scary amount of power.
So it seems like Twitter may have a little more influence on the election than the Russians.
I think all the social media companies have a lot of influence. You look back at the post-2016 election recap, and the major media were willing to acknowledge that the right did what the left had done in 2012, and that was owning social media, particularly Facebook, as a platform. Donald Trump is a big personality. He was more successful on social media than Hillary Clinton. That has nothing to do with the Russians at all, and has everything to do with him and his campaign.
And Dan, it isn't just Twitter, is it? It's Facebook, other social media. Now, is Facebook doing any better? Tell us what you found about Facebook and others.
Well, obviously, all the companies have problems. Since, however, our report, Facebook has come out, and Facebook and Google and Twitter have all testified in front of Congress. Facebook has actually hired a former U.S. senator to dig into this, to look at the possibility of bias. I think they're looking at it from a very serious angle. Mark Zuckerberg has come out publicly and talked about, at least made the right noises, talking about free speech. And that's the conservative, the coalition Stop Online Censorship here. We have 40 different organizations in this coalition. And what we're looking for here is one of the major goals is for these social media companies to stop trying to rewrite free speech for online world and to embrace not the actual fact, but the ideal of the First Amendment. We know we have no right to be on these social media platforms, but we still want everybody to be treated equally. And we want, we've litigated these for 240 years. Why relitigate and, remake the wheel?
Dan, I think one thing that was obvious from the Project Veritas video, their undercover video, was it didn't seem like it was official policy, but employees were doing a lot of this, those who monitor Twitter, and they decide, okay, this one's good, this one isn't. And their own biases came through. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, I certainly, if you go back to the testimony on the Hill, Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook admitted that they hire from liberal Silicon Valley. So that's always going to be an issue. But the sort of denials from Twitter about what Project Veritas found back in January And there's sort of reaction here that, oh, we're going to fix this, but we don't really think it's part of our healthy conversation operation. So we're supposed to feel comfortable about that. You guys are operating in a black box. We don't know how you've created these algorithms. We don't know how you've set this up with machine learning. Artificial intelligence is ultimately originally programmed by humans. How did you program it? What is it actually doing? And they need to make sure we all see that.
Okay, Dan, so finally, what else needs to be done to protect our free speech rights on social media?
Well, I think one of the things that we would say is these organizations need to work with the right, treat us as even partners. Twitter has a Trust and Safety Council that helps them, guide them. And of the U.S. partners, 12 of them are liberal, one's conservative. That's a real problem.
So maybe even the score a little bit there. Okay, Dan Gainor from the Media Research Center. Thank you, Dan, for your time and insights.
Thank you very much.